The coffee cup slipped from Sarah Mitchell's hand and shattered across the grocery store floor. A second later, she collapsed. The store instantly fell silent. Customers abandoned their shopping carts. Employees rushed from every direction. Someone shouted for an ambulance. And standing just a few feet away was Sarah's 7-year-old son, Ethan. His small hands trembled as he stared at his mother, lying motionless on the ground. Nobody noticed what Ethan did next. But within days, that little boy's actions would bring an entire community to tears. You're watching Kindness Valley, where ordinary acts of kindness create extraordinary changes. For most people, Sarah Mitchell looked like an ordinary single mother. She lived in a small apartment on the edge of town with Ethan. Every morning before sunrise, she packed his lunch, got him ready for school, and headed to work at the local grocery store. After her shift ended, she often cleaned office buildings at night to earn extra money. It was exhausting, but Sarah never complained, at least not where Ethan could hear. Whenever he asked if she was tired, she would smile and brush his hair back. "I am okay, Budgie. Don't worry about me." And every single time, Ethan believed her, or at least he pretended to, because the truth was, Ethan had started noticing things. He noticed when his mother skipped dinner and claimed she wasn't hungry. He noticed the overdue bills hidden beneath a stack of magazines. He noticed the dark circles under her eyes. And he noticed how she sometimes sat alone in the kitchen after midnight, staring at paperwork while trying not to cry. Sarah thought she was protecting her son from her struggles. She had no idea he was quietly watching everything. 3 years earlier, Sarah's life had changed overnight. A difficult divorce left her raising Ethan alone. The child support payments rarely arrived. Medical debt from a previous illness continued to grow. Every month felt like a battle she barely survived. Still, she kept going. For Ethan. Always for Ethan. But recently, things had become worse. The rent had increased. The grocery store reduced employee hours. And Sarah had started ignoring warning signs from her own body. Persistent headaches, dizziness, chest pain, extreme exhaustion. She told herself she would see a doctor eventually. Right after she caught up on rent. Right after she paid another bill. Right after things got better. But things never got better. Until the day her body finally said enough. When the ambulance arrived, Ethan sat quietly in the back seat beside a paramedic. He never cried. Not because he wasn't scared. Because he was thinking. Thinking about something he had been secretly working on for months. Something nobody knew about. At the hospital, doctors immediately began running tests. Hours passed. The waiting room grew quieter. Finally, a physician spoke with Ethan and the neighbor who had come to help. Sarah would recover, but her body was severely exhausted. Stress, overwork, poor nutrition, and untreated health issues had pushed her to a dangerous point. She would need several weeks away from work, maybe longer. The news hit Ethan harder than anyone realized, because he understood exactly what it meant. No work meant no paycheck. No paycheck meant more problems. That night, after returning home, Ethan walked directly into his bedroom. He knelt beside his closet and pulled out an old cardboard box. Inside were dozens of folded pieces of paper. He carefully held the box against his chest. Then he whispered something nobody else heard. "I think it's time." The next morning, Ethan brought the box to school. His teacher, Mrs. Reynolds, immediately noticed. "What do you have there?" Ethan hesitated. Then he placed the box on her desk. "I need help." Mrs. Reynolds opened the lid. Inside were handwritten notes. Dozens of them. Some were old. Some were recent. Each one contained a story. At first, she didn't understand. Then Ethan explained. Months earlier, he had overheard his mother crying in the kitchen. Not because of money, not because of bills, but because she felt invisible. She believed nobody noticed how hard she worked. Nobody noticed the sacrifices she made. That conversation stayed with Ethan, so he started collecting something. Proof. Proof that people did notice. Whenever someone told a story about his mother helping them, Ethan asked them to write it down. Every note inside the box represented a life Sarah had touched. Mrs. Reynolds slowly unfolded the first paper. It read, "Your mom paid for my groceries when my debit card was declined and I didn't have enough money for my baby's formula." Another note said, "Sarah stayed 2 extra hours after her shift to help me find my missing father who suffers from dementia. A third read. When my family lost our home, Sarah donated clothes and never told anyone. Mrs. Reynolds felt tears forming. The notes continued, page after page, story after story. Acts of kindness Sarah had never talked about. Acts Ethan had quietly collected. For months, the teacher looked at him in disbelief. Why did you save all these? Ethan lowered his head. His answer was simple. Because I thought one day Mom might need people to remember. Mrs. Reynolds couldn't speak. Neither could the principal after reading the notes. By the end of the school day, the entire staff had heard Sarah's story. Then parents heard. Then neighbors. Then customers from the grocery store. Within 48 hours, something extraordinary began happening. People started showing up. Not because anyone asked them to, because they wanted to. Meals appeared at Sarah's apartment. A local mechanic repaired her car free of charge. Teachers volunteered to help Ethan after school. A retired nurse offered to check on Sarah during recovery. Even strangers who had only heard about the story began sending letters. Every letter carried the same message. We remember. When Sarah finally woke fully and understood what was happening, she couldn't believe it. For years, she had convinced herself that her kindness disappeared into the world unnoticed. Now she was learning the truth. People had remembered everything. And Ethan wasn't finished. A few days later, he visited the hospital carrying one final note. Unlike the others, this one wasn't written by a neighbor or customer. It was written by him. Sarah smiled weakly as he handed it to her. She unfolded the paper, then began reading. Mom, you always tell me that helping people matters even when nobody says thank you. I didn't understand that before. Now I do. People remembered. They remembered everything. I know you're tired. I know you're scared. But you don't have to carry everything by yourself anymore. You spent years helping other people stand up. Now they're helping you. And I will too. Love, Ethan. By the time Sarah reached the final sentence, tears were streaming down her face. She pulled Ethan into her arms and held him tightly. For several moments, neither of them spoke. They didn't need to, because in that moment, Sarah realized something profound. The greatest thing she had ever done wasn't helping strangers. It wasn't working 2 jobs. It wasn't sacrificing sleep or comfort. It was raising a son who understood kindness. Weeks later, Sarah returned home. Recovery was slow. Life wasn't magically perfect. The bills still existed. The challenges were still real. But something had changed. She was no longer fighting alone. One evening, while sitting on a park bench watching the sunset, Sarah turned toward Ethan. Can I ask you something? He nodded. Why did you really collect all those notes? Ethan thought for a moment. Then he gave an answer that Sarah would never forget. Because good people forget how much they matter. Sarah looked away as tears filled her eyes again. Around them, children laughed on the playground. The sun slowly disappeared behind the trees. And for the first time in years, Sarah felt something she hadn't felt in a very long time. Hope. The day she collapsed could have become the worst day of her life. Instead, it became the day she discovered something beautiful. Kindness never disappears. Every act of compassion leaves a mark. Every sacrifice matters. And sometimes, when life becomes overwhelming, the kindness you've given away finds its way back home. What started with a single mother collapsing at work ended with a 7-year-old boy reminding an entire community what it means to care for one another. And perhaps that's the lesson all of us need to remember. Good people may feel invisible, but true kindness is never forgotten. Thank you for spending time with us here at Kindness Valley. If this story touched your heart, share your thoughts in the comments below. What's one act of kindness you'll never forget? And if you enjoy uplifting stories about kindness, family, and second chances, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Kindness Valley for more inspiring stories.